Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Missy. That's my son Paul over there, and in this video we are talking about the beginnings of baby-led weaning. So I'm going to be talking about our journey, the tools and books that I've been using and resources, and then just kind of an update of where we are. So I will say before we even started baby-led weaning, we did talk to our pediatrician at Paul's 6-month appointment. He told us it was totally fine. He gave us a big thumbs up to go ahead and just gave us a little bit of advice, which I'll talk about as we go through this. The major book that I bought was, the major resource that I've been using is this book right here, Baby-Led Feeding by Jenna Helwig. There is another book that I wanted to read that I still have not read. I'll leave it up here, that I plan on buying soon to read that one as well. And you'll notice this says baby-led feeding versus weaning. So to get right into it, baby-led weaning is a concept that was developed in the UK and has different uses the word weaning in the US here. So that's why you'll see baby-led feeding sometimes instead of weaning. In the US, weaning kind of alludes to the slowing down of either breastfeeding or formula feeding, and that's not what this baby-led feeding or weaning is all about. Baby-led feeding or weaning, I'm going to keep referring to it as baby-led weaning. Basically, it's you have no jars of food, no jars or pouches of puree. You're not sitting there feeding your baby from a spoon. You're essentially letting the baby explore foods that they can then feed themselves. If they decide they like it, they can keep eating. If they decide they don't like it, they can stop eating. So that kind of really made sense to me and my husband with Paul, especially since we've been looking more and more into the Montessori type toys and theories and philosophies about baby development. It kind of aligned with all of that for us, basically just letting babies explore through sensory, touch, taste, sight, rather than just basically sitting there and feeding them a puree out of a spoon. One of the major pros of this approach is the oral motor development skills. Basically, they're grabbing the food and they're putting it to their mouth, so they're learning that skill instead of you doing it for them. Another pro that's not in the book is that he is entertained for like 45 minutes to an hour when he's in his high chair playing with the food. And out of the food that we put on the tray, I would say probably a quarter of it is actually making it into his mouth. Most of it is going down in his chair or on the floor. But it's all about play at this point. He is still being breastfed normal. We haven't slowed that down whatsoever. Same thing if they're formula fed. You don't slow that down. Their main nutrition is going to be the breast milk or the formula. This is all about discovery and play. So when do you start baby-led weaning? So again, I recommend talking with your pediatrician. We waited till he was about 6 months, give or take. And what we were looking for was a couple things. I wanted to make sure that he could sit up, not necessarily unassisted, but that he could sit up so when he's swallowing, his head wasn't pitched back, pitched forward. That alignment of his essentially throat and esophagus was there so that he could help swallow food. And I also kind of my mom told me to wait till he was interested in food. So, I saw some people start at 4 or 5 months with the purees and whatnot. He didn't really seem interested in food that I noticed. So like if I was holding him and was eating something, he could care less if I was eating. And then right around 6 months, it started when I'd purposely hold him and eat things like an apple and wait for him to kind of grab. And then he started doing that, and that's when I kind of knew that we could start the baby-led weaning. So how to start baby-led weaning? There's a lot of safety that you can follow in Jenna's book that make this so much easier. But one of the keys is to make sure they're sitting. So you don't want them to be, for example, laying down on the floor or sitting in maybe like a bouncer chair or something. They really need to be sitting upright in a chair or a high chair or something like that so that they can sit upright and everything's aligned, making sure that they're not going to choke on anything. Maybe just starting them with one food like steamed carrots and see if he likes it. It's also great if you start them with one food for a couple days. You can help pinpoint allergies. So far, nothing has come up as allergies for Paul. So the next is what we start with. So when I was a baby, my mom was telling me that they started babies with things like rice and oatmeal cereal. And I feel like a lot of that has changed over the years. Now they pretty much, my pediatrician said, baby-led weaning or purees, you can start them on whatever you want, just avoiding a couple key things like nothing with honey, no added sugar, no added salt, and then just watch it with allergens like nuts, eggs, things like that. So the things my pediatrician and the book tell you not to give them right away, again, are honey, and then anything that could be hard, like a choking hazard, like popcorn, hard candies, whole nuts, anything like that that they could get in their mouth and not be able to gum. Because keep in mind, they don't have teeth. So you want to make sure that they're not choking on anything. What's so great about the book is she does a graphic, I'll try to put it up here, that shows the difference between mild symptoms of allergic reactions and severe symptoms of allergic reactions. And she also talks about highly allergic foods to kind of watch out for, things like nuts, peanuts, tree nuts, soy, milk, or dairy, shellfish, eggs, things like that. So anytime you give your baby any of those, you kind of want to make sure. I like to do it in the morning, so in case he has an allergic reaction, I can see it through the day. So far, we have not had any allergic reactions to anything, which is great. She also talks about in the book kind of what serving sizes are, and she also gives you a schedule if you're really into following schedules. I was never really able to follow them. I'd follow them for like a day and then kind of get off. But she does show you a schedule of like feeding, where you feed food, and then breast milk or formula food, breast milk or formula, if that was something that would help you based on age. She also gives you a list of essential tools that you will need to prep food for baby. I had most of all of them already, except for I went on Amazon and bought this guy. It's a crinkle cutter. Like, think like French fries, the frozen French fries you get. You can use this to cut them. I've been using them for cutting like sweet potatoes or anything that once it's cooked, steamed or roasted, it gets kind of mushy and it's slippery to pick up. The ridges just help him at this stage actually hold the food. So speaking of stages, the book breaks it up into 2 stages. First bites, which is what Paul's at, where basically he hasn't figured out the pincer grip, so he can't get little bits. So what he's doing is grabbing a piece. So something like an apple slice is what he's at right now, or an avocado slice. He holds it, he's putting it up to his mouth. Some food is getting in, some food's not, but that's okay. Right now it's all about play. His food that he's getting, his nutrition that he's getting is from breast milk. It's really not about nutrition that he's getting from the food. It's about learning those skills of picking up food and putting it in his mouth. There was a really good saying that anything before 1 is just fun, as in 1-year-old. So that's the kind of philosophy we go with. Ingredients we're kind of going by is, if we do purees, we haven't gotten to that point yet, things like oatmeal or maybe avocado, if I decided to mash that up. It is okay to feed them purees at some point. We're just not doing it all the time. But if I needed to thin any of those out, I'm going to use... I'll probably just use breast milk to thin those out. You could also use formula. Any of the fruits and veggies that we're giving him at this point, we're really trying to do nothing but organic if we can, which can be challenging in COVID times because you can't, well, with me, baby COVID, I'm really trying not to go out as much as possible. So I've been doing things like Misfits Market's produce box. I'll link them below. I think I have a code too. I'll give that to you if you want to try it. It's only on the East Coast of the United States right now. I actually got inspiration from another YouTuber on the West Coast who does imperfect produce or something like that, where she was basically getting produce in that she was using for baby-led weaning, and that's how I found Misfit produce. For dairy for him, like I said, we're keeping him on breast milk. Our doctor talked to us about, switching to dairy like cow's milk, and he just basically said if you're breastfeeding, it's just not necessary, and especially with allergies. So we're going to hold off on drinking milk, if at all, till he's over a year. But we are introducing some dairy. He's had some little pieces of grass-fed cheddar cheese, like grated cheese to play with. I don't know how much actually made it in his mouth, but he's tried that. Yogurt is something we'll have eventually. I haven't really been giving him yogurt at this point. Again, he's only 7 months old, so my focus is basically just on fruits and veggies. And the other 2 ingredients to kind of avoid are added salts and added sugar. So, for example, his new favorite is banana pancakes, and I don't add any maple syrup or honey at this point to them. It's just the banana and egg, and he loves it. It's sweet enough for him. And also salt. We're not adding salt to anything. So when I roast his veggies, like zucchini is his favorite thing in the whole world right now. I'm just doing it with a little bit of olive oil so it doesn't stick, and no salt. So you kind of have to break that habit as an adult, salting and peppering everything. For babies, they don't need the salt right now, so you just leave it out. So to kind of just summarize, the big 10 rules, according to Jenna's book, for baby-led weaning are: number 1 is, which I am guilty, I kind of forget, is to make sure you get in the habit of washing their little hands before you start eating. He's now kind of laying on the floor, the dog's licking his hands, he's touching things, so it's important to get into that habit of washing their hands before they eat. Like I said before, it's very important that they're sitting straight up when they start eating so that they don't choke. Part of the process is it's very tempting, but not to put the food in their mouth or in front of their face. The main point of this is discovery, that they're going to figure out where the food is themselves. So you just place it on the tray in front of them. If they want it, they want it. If they don't, they don't. If they don't seem interested after a little bit, or they're getting fussy, I just take him out. But luckily, most part, he seems very interested and he likes playing with the food, if anything. In the first 2 weeks that we started this process, very little was getting into his mouth. He was pretty much just playing with it, pushing it around the tray, throwing some on the floor, and that's okay. It's just part of the process. How you cut the food is very important. You want it to be at his stage, first bites. Everything needs to be able to be picked up in his hand, and the guide is it should be as big as your pinky for him to eat. So things like apples, zucchinis, I'm just making sure, are long and skinny pieces. The texture of everything he's eating should be mushy. And if you think about it, he doesn't have teeth, so he's using his gums to kind of process these into little bits. So things like watermelon obviously is okay if it's raw, but harder foods that he's been eating like apples, squash, carrots. He's been obsessed with his hands lately. Harder things like apples, sweet potatoes. What else has he been eating? Carrots. I'm steaming them or roasting them until they're mushy. And what I like to do is be able to easily mush them between my thumb and my finger like this, and it should be able to smush. If not, just cook it a little bit longer. But you don't want to cook it so far that's falling apart, because again, they still have to be able to grab it with their hand. We already talked about skipping sugar and salt. They just don't need it at this point. Paying attention to certain vitamins and minerals in foods can be healthy. She kind of breaks that down into like iron and zinc and all that good stuff. Number 8 is always make sure that you're with your baby. You don't want to ever leave your baby alone while baby-led feeding, even for a second. Number 9 was paying attention to hunger cues. And you don't need to basically say like, take one more bite or putting the spoon in their mouth or their food in their mouth. It's up to them at this. This is also a great time to introduce baby signs. Things like more, the other ones, if they want to drink, if they want water, and then all done. We've been working on those. So far, I haven't seen him do any of these signs. Right now, it's just been training mom and dad on what these signs are, but we've been working on those with Paul as well. And number 10 in Jenna's book is don't be afraid to spoon feed them purees if you want to. For example, avocado was just a messy disaster, so I don't know if I'll be giving him avocado slices right now, but I wouldn't be opposed to just mashing it up with a fork, thinning it out with breast milk if you need to, and then spoon feed them. You just want to make sure that you're not overfeeding them. If he wants to grab the spoon while I put it in his mouth, that's totally okay. I let him. Or sometimes I'll put some on the spoon and let him have it. You just have to watch him because he will chuck the spoon on the floor in 2 seconds. So Paul is in what the book calls little bites. So 6 months to 8 months. He's learning the skills of grabbing. This stage is really about watching his eye-hand coordination. So he grabs something, opens his mouth, and then puts it in his mouth. So that's what he's learning right now. It's important that foods are long enough for him to be able to grab. They're textured so he can grab them. For example, I was talking about avocado. There's certain ways you can slice or prepare slimy foods like that. So avocado is a slice, and half the slice actually still has the skin on it, so he can grab it. Same thing with bananas. You slice the banana in half and actually leave the peel on, exposing some of the fruit. I'll show you pictures in a second, so that they can grab that and then put that to their mouth. The other important thing that we started doing at this stage is introducing water. So introducing water with the meal, we've been kind of doing it at the end of the meal because he just gets so obsessed with the cup and kind of just ignores everything that's on his dish. So we are using a cup. So we were trying to train him to use a cup with both hands. We hold the bottom of it. He tips it up and drinks out of the top. I was actually kind of amazed that a baby could drink out of anything besides a sippy cup, but we've just been using tempered glass, little shot glasses, essentially. He also has two other little baby cups. One we got in our Lovery kit, which is a little stainless steel one, and then there's another little silicone one that we have as well. But it seems like these right now, the glass cups work a little better. We can grip them. They're wide enough that he can put both his hands on, and we say, both hands please. He drinks, and then we put it down. We say, put it down gently. So he gets in the habit of, going through this motion, and it's working, and he loves drinking water. So we kind of leave that to the end of our meal. And one of the things I love about this book is for the first stage, big bites, and then the older kids, she gives you this graphic that basically shows cutted sizes of certain fruits and vegetables meant as a guide. I leave this open on my counter all the time just so I can go look and reference, like, okay, how big does that cucumber look? Did the cucumber have the skin on it? Did it not? This book was amazing. If you're interested in baby-led weaning, I would totally go grab this book off Amazon. The other big thing that I get when I've been posting pictures of Paul eating foods on things like Instagram is people are obsessed with, piece of paper, sorry, Paul's grabbing it. People are obsessed with, oh my God, doesn't he choke? So you can do your research on this, and in Jenna's book, she gives you 2 huge pages on choking versus gagging. There is a big difference. And Paul does gag a lot, and it is scary. It was scary in the beginning, and it still is scary. But from my research and what the book says, basically, we all have gag reflexes, even as an adult. If something goes too far back in your throat, in your throat now as an adult, you're going to gag. Well, the baby's reflex actually goes further up their mouth. So anything that gets remotely close to the back of the throat, if it's too big, the body gags. So it's body's own defense mechanism to get something out. So Paul has done that quite a few times in learning, and it's a new skill, putting stuff in your mouth. Until then, it was just breast milk. It was all liquid. So you have to go through this teaching phase of, eating solid foods. What's that like? So it is very scary. He still does it. I won't say that it's not scary, especially when I give him things like chicken we gave him the other day, and kind of things like sliced hard-boiled eggs. I'm just kind of attuned to versus softer things like watermelon. It's a little scary, I'm not going to lie, but he does great. And you got to think too that baby food is only probably less than 100 years old. So what did mamas do hundreds of years ago? They didn't have access to pureed baby foods. Just that was kind of my logic, and this just makes sense to us. That's why we're doing it. And one of the big keys in the book that she talks about, the difference between gagging and choking, is gagging is okay. The face turns red. They kind of, make that gagging reflex noise and look. They're still able to cry, talk, and move around. Choking, which is not as common as gagging during this process, is scary. Would be things like they're not making any noise. They can't cry. Maybe they're flailing their hands around like this. Other scary things that are in the book that you can look up. It is also recommended before you do this, you take a course, CPR course. The American Red Cross has CPR courses on infants. And then just finally, most of her book too is recipes, really awesome recipes. So like this is the cinnamon banana pancakes. We started having these yesterday. Paul loves them. And there's so many other great things in here. Like it's not just steamed veggies. So like one of them is steamed broccoli that you kind of top with nutritional yeast to give it a little more flavor. Trying to find other things here. Mini meatballs, even fish. Paul had salmon last week and loved it. So there are things in here. What I like is I can base my husband and myself's meal kind of with Paul in mind as well. So it's not just, he's eating with us what we're eating, which is kind of what we really enjoy. So that's where he is right now. We're about 6 weeks, almost 2 months into baby-led weaning. We love it. The one thing that I have to say is unexpected that I didn't realize that I do really like is the fact that it takes a lot of time. It takes about 45 minutes to an hour is when he's eating, which is great but in that time, I have him in the kitchen. I have him in a high chair that kind of connects to our countertop, so I am watching him like a hawk all the time because you never want to leave him alone. And I'm able to put his food out. I can prepare dinner for myself and my husband. I can even clean up some. We eat. I'm able to clean up dishes, and then he's kind of weaning down. He's never really been screaming while he's sitting in the chair. He likes it the whole time. He enjoys it. And then one of the cons, I don't know if I said it before, is he makes such a mess. It's all over him, whatever he's eating, especially when he's eating sticky foods like bananas or sweet potatoes. It's all in his seat. It gets on the floor. Mo, our dog, does help us out, but it makes quite a bit of a mess. I did start doing this. I saw another YouTuber that I follow, Kelly's Corner, and she was just talking about her daughter who turns a year in November. When she's done feeding her, she just takes a warm wet rag, and just gives it to her daughter. She's finishing cleaning up, and her daughter like touches the wet rag and then, you know, puts it to her face, like biting it essentially, and self-cleans a little bit. So we've been doing that to Paul, and then it adds another anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes of keeping him occupied as we're just, you know, putting dinner away or whatever. So that's been a really cool tip. But other than that, we're really loving it. It's actually really lazy because I don't have to sit there and spoon feed him food constantly. I can be doing other things. I can be eating, enjoying, taking videos that I post on Instagram, all that good stuff. Which, if you're not following my Instagram, go ahead and check out my Instagram page. I post tons of pictures of him eating or videos of him eating and all that good stuff. I think I might start doing a couple more videos on recipes. A couple more videos on some recipes in here. Give this video a thumbs up if you're interested in seeing those. All right, friends, that's all I had on baby-led weaning so far with this little guy. He's not me. That's my granola bar. Can I have that back, please? So that's all we had for baby-led weaning so far. We'll probably have to do an update video in a couple months to let you know how everything else is going. And again, thank you so much for watching. Subscribe if you haven't. Like this. Give this video a thumbs up if you like it and want to see more like it. And we'll see you next time. Bye.